Hello, everyone. I am back in New York City for another big theater trip, and it's my first night and my first show without you. Anthony Rapp's one man show that's based on his 2006 book, Without You. Now, if you guys don't know Anthony Rapp played Mark in the musical Rent. He was the original Mark. Oh man, it's emotional, guys. Sorry. Rent was a huge influence on my life. At the perfect time that I needed a show like that, a show that had live on stage lots of homosexuals and drag queens, transgenders, lesbians, people with HIV and AIDS, artists. Almost all of them are artists and striving, and they're struggling. I mean, it's La Boheme, okay? That's what it is. Um, Jonathan Larson wrote a version of La Boheme. He loved La Boheme and he loved rock music, and so he created this rock opera in a kind of Stephen Sondheim-esque world. Sondheim was a huge influence on him, and he created Rent. And Anthony Rapp was there. He was part of all of it from the very first workshop. And he was friends with Jonathan Larson. And there's a whole other story, and you guys can Google that and look that up. I don't want to take up the time to talk about that. But it's a very powerful thing. What Rent was in the 90s to the world, Hamilton has been to the world. And there hasn't been another show like that since Rent that has had a ripple effect on the entire society. And Rent was that effect, much in the same way that Hamilton has been an effect on the entire world. In the 90s, late 90s, you knew what Rent was, even if you hadn't seen it, even if you didn't follow Broadway or go see it, which I did many times. Yes, guys, I am a Rent head. That's what we were called, fans of Rent. So Anthony Rapp, of course, that's a large part of his life. And that's the story that I came prepared to hear in Without You. And I got that story and so much more. Anthony told the story of his mother. And while he was working on the show, his mother had a lot of health obstacles. And while the show was running on Broadway and he was starring in the show, she passed. He was able to be there. And of course, sons and mothers. My mother's my best friend. My mother's 85. She's my world. I don't have a spouse. I don't have children. I have my mother. And back in February, she had a fall, an accident, and wound up in the hospital and then in a rehab center. And then we got to bring her back to her house where I have been her main caregiver, cooking and cleaning. We did bring in medical help, and she's doing better. She is. She's going to beat this, and she's going to be okay. But I was face to face with her mortality and seeing this woman who is an incredibly strong force. I mean, you did not fuck with Jonalyn Berry, okay? It just didn't happen. She is a very strong person, and to see this strong trailblazer of a woman, way ahead of her time, become frail and weak, it's been hard. And to sit on the front row, right in front of Anthony Rapp in a very intimate theater at New World Stages, and hear him tell the story back and forth between probably the show that's affected me the most in my entire life emotionally, and talk about losing his mother and replay all these conversations and go back and forth. What a show. When I bought my ticket for this show several months ago, because they have Monday night performances, and a lot of Broadway shows and off-Broadway shows do not. So I'm like, that's when I'll go. And they had VIP option, and I did purchase the VIP. Of course, I'm a VIP, which meant I got prime seating. I mean, he was literally right there. And I got the book, and I got the poster, which I prominently displayed my merchandise, and I got to meet him. And I had it all lined up what I was going to say. And I had it all lined up. I wanted to tell him how powerful the show was. One thing that a couple of my friends know this, but when the show came out, not long after it released, they released a huge book, hardcover book that's covered in red. It has all the lyrics in it. Plus it tells stories and has pictures and everything. I would get, and I bought this CD. It was a double CD. This is 1996, guys, okay? I would stand in my apartment, put the book on a music stand right by the boombox, and sing the role of Mark, and pretend I was Mark, and sing it all the way through. I know all the words. And so I wanted to tell him that, and I wanted to tell him how much the show has meant to me. I was such a blubbering idiot by the end of the show. I couldn't communicate. I couldn't say anything to him. Literally, he had to go, do you want me to sign your book? Oh, yeah. Did you want a picture? Oh, yeah. I mean, I couldn't say anything. And I wasn't starstruck. I just was so moved by the show and the storytelling. But I want to talk about what it takes for an actor, a performer, to do what he did tonight. I mean, he's on the stage alone. He had a band, a phenomenal band, and I actually wanted to tell you the band, because they were incredible. And playing for a one-man show, things can change, and it's very important. And Daniel Weiss and Clarita Eltime played the cello. Daniel played keyboards and was music director. Paul Gill on bass. Jerry Murata on drums. And Lee Moretti on guitar. She actually did Instagram Takeover, I think, yesterday. I saw it on Instagram. But he's there, and he's telling these stories, and there are times that he's screaming in anger or in pain because he's reliving all this shit. You know, the loss of Jonathan Larson and the impact that had on the show, what it was like, the creation, how he met Adam Pascal the very first time at Jonathan Larson's house, and telling stories about his mom and letting us know this is not going to end in a happy way, guys. The sad, the sorrow, everything. He bared his soul to us. He opened up and was vulnerable and left it all on the stage. And you can't help but follow along and get wrapped up. To the lady sitting next to me in the front row, I swear you were from Jersey because I heard the accent with you and your friends. You know, she took the tissue off my lap because we were just sobbing, and I had several on my lap. Tissues. I had one, I still had one, and it's okay because it was a roller coaster of emotions that we all rode together, led by Anthony Rapp. And what we learn is the show, the beautiful song from Rent, Without You, which is the title of his book. The show is about being without. Without You was sung at the end of the show as a dedication to his mother. It was a journey in 90 minutes that was just incredible. I enjoy one man, one woman shows when they are really, really good, but they can so easily become really, really bad, especially when it's a show that you're telling your story. And to make it interesting. And he did. He made it extremely interesting. I hung on every word. I followed every movement. There were a couple of times that he took a quick sip of water or something. And those were moments we as an audience needed. We needed that. It's a beautifully crafted show, written by him. Done by him, and I I can't recommend it enough. Without You playing at New World Stages off Broadway, it is a incredible theatrical event. I strongly urge you to go see. And stay tuned because this is the first of many more coming throughout the week. I'm not sure what all I'm seeing. So you guys know I have a couple of shows that I bought tickets for in advance, but mostly it's going to be a surprise to me as well. So stay tuned to more Theater Talks with Scott. Bye.